Good morning, everybody. Hi, this is Amrit, and I'll be taking your social science subject in grade 7. Let's start with the first division of the subject, that is history. And before we start learning, let's have some rules. As we have the rules in classroom, here we have some video rules. So I want you to pause the video wherever required when question is asked. That's the special thing. Form for 5 to 10 seconds. After the lecture, read concept book pages thoroughly. And you need to use answer key for revising question answers, which will include your practice zones and extra questions. I'll be using two methods to teach you. One is I'll be showing you few of the things from your concept book, and second, you will have to refer my handwritten notes. So let's start with the comic script. As you all know that we have our alien friends who try to explore our country or the world through their special powers, in which they are able to stroll here and there in the narrow lanes and by lanes of Chandni Chowk, and moreover they have special power to travel to and fro between different time periods. So let's see what is the question today. They have gone to one shop and they're trying to find out what this person is doing. He's writing calligraphy and writing ayats from Quran. Ayats are nothing but plural of ayah, which means words from the Quran. And the second person is trying to look at some colorful pictures. He is analyzing them, and they have a question that why these paintings are really small in size. So this person tells them that these are called miniature paintings. And just after that, they wanted to know more about these paintings. So they are trying to visit the National Archive where these calligraphies and paintings are now preserved. Then they had a question, who made these beautiful paintings and who wrote these beautiful scripts? I wonder where these paintings originated. So they are going to find out next. During their search, they found that some of kind of Latin language was also written in these pictures, where in these books where it was illustrated. So they had question. The question over here is mystery to solve. How come Latin in India? So, if you could think for a second, Latin language was used in somewhere Europe, and I believe the history of India and Europe is somewhere connected. So, that's what the detective in me thinks. For your reference, let's have a quick look on the comic script. If you could go through it. Then we have mystery solved, and this is what the detective in me thinks. Let's move further with the next notes and also the topic number 1 of the chapter, division of history. So we are going to divide history in three periods, that's ancient, medieval, and modern period. Further, let us compare about the history of India and Europe when it comes to the timeline. Before we look at these figures, we need to understand the concept of timeline. This concept says that if you put 0 over here as your mathematics, similarly, these numbers are decreasing, but they're actually increasing, I mean in minus, and then the number goes further. Similarly, in timeline, this area is considered as BCE and this side is considered as CE. And if I say AD is same as CE and BC is same as BCE. BC simply means before Christ, AD means Anno Domini, which you need not to consider. We are going to take BCE and CE, which means before Common Era and Common Era. So this is how. So the difference which I found is the history of India is considered from 7000 BCE to 700 CE. That means from this side till this side. Then here's the figure for Europe. Medieval period is considered into two periods, early medieval and later medieval period for India, but not for Europe. Europe, it's simple, 500 to 1400 CE. That's how they are considering. Here in India, 700 CE to 1200 CE and 1200 CE to 1700 CE. Here the modern period starts in late 1700s and here it starts in 1400s. Let's have a quick look on our concept pages. Here we're going to deal with page number 10 and page number 11. Let's have a look on my notes. What is the term history? It simply means it's the systematic study of past happening in chronological order. The order in the form of dates. Now the question arises, why is history in periods? Why not history in minutes, hours, days or years? Because this is not possible. Organization of long periods is to be done when we have to consider history. How are these periods created now? That's the next question. Simply, we consider the political change, we consider the socio-economic change, we consider the change in ideas and beliefs. So the period is demarcated as length of time these changes were having the similar characteristics. Just after that, the historians simply consider these periods as ancient, medieval, and modern. But somewhere, the British historians of colonial era considered it as Hindu, Muslim, and modern period. They believed that this is the only change which has happened. But that's not true. There were many other changes which we'll be studying further here in the notes, that what were the changes in all these periods in India. Now the question arises, is this division of time same all over the world? Let's discover. I don't believe you have a hint here. I don't think so. Everything started at the same time in two different parts of the world. So let's have a glimpse on what happened in ancient period in Indian history and what happened in Europe history. Similarly, we are going to study about medieval period, Indian history, and we are going to study about the European history. Similarly, modern period, Indian history and European history. And this is basically your page number 11 and it finishes up till page number 12, and then we are going to have two questions which we will be discussing further. Let's move little bit quick. 7000 BC to 700 CE, this is what we wrote for Indian history. Neolithic settlers started their farming and other things, and it ended at the death of Harshvardhana. In European history, cuneiform writing system in Sumer, Mesopotamia, modern Iraq, it commenced the 500 and 5000 years ago to 476 CE. These were the different time ranges which we found here. Then let's move to the medieval period. How did the medieval period start in Indian history? It started with the rise of warrior clan Rajputs around 700 CE onward, and it lasts till 1700 CE with the breakup of Mughal Mansabdars. We have two parts in medieval, one is early, the other one is later. 700 CE to 1200 CE, it was considered with Hindu Rajputs, and later it also started with Turks, and few others came in between, ended with Mughals. Finally, the British rule in India. By the time in European history, 500 CE, Byzantine Empire in Eastern Roman started. Then with 1400 CE, with the Renaissance, new ideas of art and Asian classical learning of Romans and Greeks swept through the Europe. And the modern period started with industrialization in Europe. See, this is the important link. Industrialization in Europe started and Britishers consolidated their power in India, and they think this is the time when the modern period started in India, because India was a source of raw material. Economic depression is what India faced due to fetching of raw material, continuous raw material. New technologies in India came, like railways and mill produced cloth. But Europeans says that their modern period started around 1400s, because the Marco Polo and Vasco da Gama, they found the new routes by sea, and colonization process started to Asian countries. There is where they considered their, basically they are considering their modern period. If we look back, now we got to know that time ranges are somewhere different in two parts of the world, but there is some connection between Europe and India. Here is where you found. Let's move further. Britishers of the view, they say that no change in the medieval period has majorly happened, but that's not the case, I believe. India has received a lot of changes in the medieval period. I would like to tell you one or two. That is, Mughal administrative setup is basically used by the Britishers once they colonized India. India also reached at the zenith of art and architecture, trade and commerce during the medieval period. Now, when the religion changed, the political setup also changed. जब भी लोगों का religion change होता था, new rulers आते थे, तो साथ के साथ political setup भी change होता था. That means lot of changes were there in medieval period. Now, we got to know our answer that events of one place is surely influencing events at the other place through different timelines, but they are somewhere interlinked. Now it's time to wrap up with one or two questions. So my wrap up is here. Wrap up says, the first question says, division of history, you all got to know, isn't it? The division of history is specifically being done. You all got to know the answer, that it is divided into periods. Division of time is same all over the world? A big no. I have already given you few of the facts regarding that. Then were there any social changes during medieval period? Of course, there were many social changes during the medieval period. And what were three is what I found. Disintegration of Harsha's empire and rise of warrior clan happened. Then just after that, intermixing of Hindu and Islamic culture led to the rise of new styles of architecture. And even the most important thing was administrative setup put in place by Mughals in the later medieval period formed the basis of British administrative system. Of course, that means medieval history has given us a lot to continue with it. And then the question rises, how is time measured in history? How do we demarcate the periods in history? Basically, the periods are demarcated as the change in society and economy. They are divided into periods which comprises of specific and important events. And these events are somewhere based on the socio-economic change. So we try to find out, there were similar changes in ancient, there were similar changes in medieval, and there are similar kind of pattern followed in modern. So historians have clearly divided the history into three time periods, that's ancient, medieval, and modern. Suppose your wrap up with page number 12, where you thought about these two questions and you also thought about two extra questions. We are going to study our next chapter in my next video. I mean next topic of this chapter itself, that is studying history through maps. So we will be continuing this process next time. Till the time, I would want you to read page number 13 and also go with page number 14 so that you may be able to get a view of these two questions, and I'll be discussing these two topics in detail in my next video. Thank you, students.